Hey guys, this is Venom coming at you with another build video today. Today we're going to be talking about the Sorc tank. We're going to be covering skills, passives, race options, CP, gear sets, and more. We're going to start first on the front bar, Dark Deal. Bargain with Darkness to restore 8,160 health and 3,600 stamina instantly and an additional 2,400 stamina over 10 seconds. To me, this is one of the main reasons I enjoy playing on the Sorc tank, sustainability. So basically any class that you're playing on, whenever you're holding block, your stamina does not recover, but your magicka does. So this costs magicka and it gives you back stamina and a heal and stam recovery. Whenever a boss or a strong ad hits you with their heavy attack, you have about a 1 to 2 second window, and that is when you want to weave this skill. If you weave this skill right when you're getting hit with that heavy attack, this makes your block drop, so be warned. If you ever do find yourself in a pinch and you need to weave this skill because your resources got low for some reason, I have this on as a front bar ult, spell wall. This will automatically block all attacks for 7 seconds and it reflects all projectiles cast at you. It's kind of like how a DK may use their magma shell if they get low on resources, and then they'll try to heavy attack to get back their resources. Except this is much better than trying to heavy attack because this will also heal you and it gives you back more stamina than heavy attacking will. Next, Pierce Armor. Thrush your weapon. It does a little bit of physical damage. It taunts the enemies to attack you for 15 seconds. It afflicts them with minor and major breach, reducing their physical and spell resistances by 2,974 and 5,948 for 15 seconds. I run 2 taunts on my front bar, one for up close, one for ranged. Inner Rage, ignite the fires of hate in the enemy's heart, dealing magic damage and taunting them for 15 seconds. A ranged ally targeting the taunted enemy can activate the Radiance energy, dealing magic damage to them over 3 seconds, and additional magic damage to them and other nearby enemies. So whenever you're going near a boss or a group of ads, you want to make sure and identify what the priority targets are. Usually it's a taller ad with a 2-handed sword and a mean look on his face, or they got wings on the health bar. Instead of just bum rushing in and trying to hurry and taunt stuff, things will try to run around you and go at your team. You want to start at range first and just enter rage as fast as you can, whatever priority targets they are. And then as the ads and you start to kind of go together, then start using your Pierce Armor to apply your taunt and your debuff. Next, Defensive Stance. The best skill from the Sword and Board skill line, in my opinion. This is going to give you a damage shield for 6 seconds. It scales off your max health. You reflect the next harmful direct damage projectile cast at you once per cast. While it is equipped, while you have a shield equipped, the amount of damage you can block is increased 10%, and the cost of blocking is reduced by 10%. So some people think too that you can't deal damage as a tank. Oh, you can. In certain situations, if something launches a high damage projectile at you, you can reflect a high damage projectile back at them. Some examples could be in Sunspire at a dragon, could be in Lair of Marsalok, the final dragon, or even a Lurcher, their projectile from March of Sacrifices. I've seen hundreds of thousands of damage reflected back from these projectiles, so you can deal some damage with this skill as a tank. Next is your heal, the Clan Fear. It does a little bit of physical damage every 1 second. You can activate the special ability. It heals you for quite a bit. This is probably the biggest heal that any of the tanks have. And it also heals itself. Spell Wall we went over a second ago. This is automatically blocks for you and reflects projectiles cast for 7 seconds. On the back bar, this is your root, Restraining Prison. 18 by 6 meter area, lasts 6 seconds. You call forth shards and immobilizes enemies in front of you for 6 seconds. If no enemies are immobilized, you restore back some magicka. Hitting the enemy grants you major vitality, increasing your healing received by 16% for 2 seconds, plus 1 second per enemy in the area up to a maximum of 6 enemies. Blockade of Frost. Slam down your staff, create an ice barrier in front of you, dealing frost damage to enemies in the target area for 1 second. Applying Frost Safeguard for 6 seconds to you and nearby allies that absorbs, says 11,349 damage from projectiles. Shield enemies are affected with minor breach, and their movement speed is reduced 40% for 4 seconds. Next, this is your chain pull, Silver Leash. Fire the Dawn Guard's crossbow hook to pull enemy to you, dealing physical damage, taunting them for 15 seconds if they're not already taunted, and reduce their movement speed 30% for 4 seconds. Next, I use Razor Drops. This is an AoE debuff. It applies major breach, and it reduced their physical and spell resistances by 59.48. It also reduced their movement speed by 50%. Double bar the Clan Fear. The back bar ult, mostly I will use Aggressive Warhorn. Increases your group's max magicka and max stamina 10% for 30 seconds. You and your allies gain major force, increasing your critical damage 20% for 10 seconds. There is some other ults that you can use. The charged Atronach. Summon a mobile Atronach at the target location. It deals shock damage and stuns enemies for 3 seconds. Calls forth a lightning storm every 2 seconds, dealing more shock damage around it. Enemies hit or afflicted with the concussion status effect. An ally near the Atronach can activate the charged lightning synergy, granting nearby allies major berserk for 8 seconds, increasing their damage done 10%. This currently works on 4 people. They're buffing it next update to work on 12 people. Another option for your ultimate, Suppression Field. Conjure a globe of magic suppression for 12 seconds, removing and preventing all enemy area effect abilities from occurring in the area. Enemies in the globe are stunned, while the enemy players will be silenced rather than stunned. The globe also damages enemies for magic damage every 1 second. So this won't work on bosses, and it doesn't work on enemies that has like wings on their health bar, but it does work mostly on like mid-tier and like lower ads. If you're going through some content, even ads and dungeons can one-shot your team. To give you an example, if you're doing, we'll say Moonhunter Keep, and just a regular werewolf comes up to your guy, they do a crush and leap, it's going to probably one-shot your DPS. They can hit them for like 80,000 damage. So if I'm doing something like, tanking Vycosa, and you got these werewolves that want to pour over the wall and come at your team during those phases, I can be in one area up here taking care of the wolves and Vycosa, and then as the werewolves start to pour in, I can just throw my suppression field in the middle, and as they come into it, they just stop in it. And it gives my team plenty of time to kill them. So you can control the battlefield, be in one spot and then control another spot and shut it down with suppression field. Again, I don't run around in every dungeon spamming suppression field. Most of the time I'm using the Aggressive Warhorn. Alright, some of your passives down through here. Unholy Knowledge, reduce the health, magicka, and stamina cost of your non-core ability 6%. Blood Magic, when you hit an enemy with dark magic ability, you can heal. Can occur every half a second, scales off your max health. Persistence, after blocking an attack, your next health, magic, or stamina ability costs 15% less. Exploitation, when you cast a dark magic ability, you grant minor prophecy to you and your group, increasing your spell critical rating 1,314 for 20 seconds. So this is your dark magic ability that we are weaving constantly in the group. So you're always giving this buff to your group. It's going to increase their crit percentage by 6%. Daedric Summoning. Rebate. You restore 300 magic or stamina when one of your non-ultimate Daedric Summoning abilities ends. The resource return is dictated by the ability's cost. Power Stone. Reduce the cost of your ultimate abilities 15%. Daedric Protection. Increase the health and stamina coverage 20%. We have a Daedric Summoning ability slotted. Expert Summoner. Increase your max health 8%. We have a Daedric Summoning ability active on yourself. It's always up and always going. Underneath Storm Calling, I should mention this as well. Underneath the skills for Storm Calling, this is another tool that the Sorc has in his kit that just can really set him apart streak. There is some areas that you can kind of streak through. There could be like a fire line or a ghost wall or some traps on the ground. Just this ability to streak through stuff Not saying that you have to do that, but you can do that if you need to. And it just will just teleport you through some things. It's kind of neat to use in certain situations. All right, back to the passives. Capacitor, increase your magic recovery 10%. Energized, increase your physical and shock damage 5%. Amplitude, increase your damage done against enemies 1%. For every 10% current health they have. Expert Mage, increase your weapon and spell damage 2% for each sorcerer ability slotted. The sword and board, your passives, you need to make sure all these are on. Fortress, reduce your stamina cost, your one hand and shield abilities, sword and board, daily bash, deflect bolts, and battlefield mobility. Just make sure you put your passives into all of these. Destruction staff, underneath Trifocus for this particular build, I like to take these out when I'm just saving it to my armory slot. I'm a Magicka tank. I have infinite resources anyway, and I don't like my resources being drained from my Magicka. It's more important to me. I know there's builds where people, they want to share between their Magicka and their stamina, and that's how they sustain. You don't need this on this particular build, and I would recommend just removing the Trifocus. The rest of these don't really matter. I'm running all 7 pieces heavy armor, so I have all of the passives for this. Slot all of those. Let's see here. Fighters Guild. This is where your Silver Leash can be found. It's the first skill down. You want to make sure underneath the passives here that you have Banish the Wicked. You can generate 3 ultimate whenever you kill an enemy. Underneath Sigic Order, if for some reason you want to swap out some skills, you can here. Time Freeze can be used to help shut some stuff down. It's okay in certain situations. Deep Thoughts, if you ever do need extra recovery for some reason, you can run this. Undaunted is where your inner rage, your ranged taunt is found. Just make sure you get your passives for this as well. Undaunted Command, activate a synergy, restores 4% of your max health, stamina, and magicka. The Undaunted Metal, I'm all heavy armor, so I get a 2% bonus for this. Assault, this is where your aggressive Warhorn ult is at. Razor Drops is one of your skills from here. Under support, you can, in certain situations, if you want to try to help your team, you could put on Reviving Barrier. Efficient Purge is another skill that you may consider running in here in certain areas. Maybe, say you're doing Black Rose Prison and your team keeps getting hit with poison for some reason, you could help them purge. Some people will run this here, this Blinding Flare, to get the major protection, reducing your damage taken 10%. I really don't run this. I can, but I'm really so survivable anyway. I don't really need it, and I don't see it outweighing defensive stance. This is so I really don't see where I would want to run this, but you can run that if you want to get the major protection. So let's talk about the race real quick. On this tank, I'm a high elf. You're probably saying, what? High elf? Why? The high elf actually makes a pretty good tank, believe it or not. Spell Recharge for his passes. When you activate an ability, you restore 625 magicka or stamina based on whichever is the lowest every 6 seconds. When you're using an ability with a channel or cast time, you take 5% less damage. So keep in mind, this skill here that we're using, this is a cast time of 1 second. Meaning that when you're actually weaving this, when you're kind of vulnerable because your block is technically dropped, it's going to allow you a little bit of damage mitigation. This is my main account, and I will swap over to my Sorc DPS, and he's a high elf. So you can be kind of the best of both worlds. You can be a really good tank and a really good DPS. It's a good main character class to choose. The next passive, increase your max magic disturbings, but increase your max magicka by 2,000. Or a magicka tank. This is actually really good to have as well. The third one, Elemental Talent, increase your weapon and spell damage by 258. You might be saying, I don't know about that. It's kind of a wash. I kind of agree it is, but there are some builds to where it's actually useful, and we'll get into that in a minute. Alright, we're going to jump into the champion tree. Now, you may have different slottables that you want to run, and that's probably fine. This is just what I like to run on my guy on this particular build. For my 4 slottables, I like Ironclad. This is going to reduce your damage taken from direct damage attacks by a total of 6%. During Resolve, reduce your damage taken from damage over time by a total of 6%. Duelist Rebuff, reduce your damage taken from single target attacks by a total of 6%. Endless Endurance, increase your max stamina by 1,300. In the red tree, Strategic Reserve, gain 30 health recovery for every 10 ultimate you have. And again, I cannot imagine in any situation why anybody would not want to run this for one of their slottables. This is going to help you sustain so well with your health recovery. Next, Slippery. This is going to automatically break you free at no cost when you're affected by a disabling effect. Can occur every 21 seconds. I always like to tell people this. I forewarn you, if you're ever playing Scalecaller Peak and you have to get frozen in that dungeon, make sure that you remove this and put on a different slottable. Otherwise, you're going to auto break free and you're going to be dead. Next, Fortified. Grant you 1,731 armor. Balanced Vitality gives you 1,400 health. Underneath the green tree, Treasure Hunter, Rationer, Meticulous Disassembly, and Steed's Blessing. Alright, we're going to have a look at the character sheet real quick. We have over 20,000 max mag, over 45,000 max health, over 20,000 stamina, 1123 mag recovery, 2677 health recovery, 617 stam recovery. Again, don't worry about the stam recovery because you have infinite stamina. The physical and spell resistances are set at 35,718. You might be asking, ain't 33 the cap? Yeah, it is. Well, what happens whenever you get debuffed? It looks like your health bar is fractured. Resistances go down a little bit. So if you set them a little higher, this allows you a little bit of room for when you get debuffed that you're never at a point of vulnerability. You're always going to be at the cap. For the attributes, 42 in the Magicka, 22 in the health. The food, I run just basic blue food on this particular build. You don't have to run anything special, no sugar skulls or anything like that. Because again, your resources are basically infinite on this. So blue food is going to give you higher values of health and your stamina. And finally, the Mundus Stone is the Lady. This is going to increase your physical and spell resistances by 2,044. Next, we're going to get into some gear set options. This is what I like to run in most 4-man content. On the front bar, Sword of the Turning Tide. I have a life drain enchantment, gives you back Magicka and health infused. Turning Tide 2-piece, max health, 3-piece stamina, 4-piece health, 5. When you block, you gain flowing water for 10 seconds, causing your next bash to attack to deal magic damage up to 6 enemies in a 5 by 10 meter line and apply major vulnerability for 10 seconds, increasing their damage taken 10%, can occur every 15 seconds. It scales off your max health. The Shield of the Turning Tide infused, max health. On my back bar, Dark Convergence. Ice Staff, infused. Crusher Glyph, reduce the target's physical and spell resistance 2108 for 5 seconds. So the 2-piece gives max Magicka, 3 offensive pin, 4 weapon and spell damage, 5 casting ability, leaves an effect on the ground, or create an area that applies a 60% snare, pulls enemies in after 1 second delay, stunning them for 1 second. After 4 seconds, the area deals magic damage to all enemies in a 10 meter area and more magic damage to enemies within 3 meters of the center, increasing 50% for each target. Can occur every 25 seconds. The head, Mighty Chudon. Now, you can swap out the monster set here as well, and your back bar set. These are all interchangeable. this is just what I like to run for most content. You could run Nazaré, Nanatuck if you want to add some more juice to your team, but I like to make sure that my resistances are, at cap. I'm never at a point of vulnerability. I think your tank is, if your tank goes down, everybody's in trouble. So you want to make sure that you're survivable first off. But if you're good, then by all means, depending on what content you're in, you could always swap this out for something else. Shoot on, reinforced max health, 1-piece armor, 2-piece max health, and you gain the major resolve, increasing your physical and spell resistances by 59.48. The chest, Bloodlord's Embrace. If you don't have this mythic, I would recommend going out and getting it. If you've never tried it, you got to give this thing a try. Dealing damage with a bash attack places a persistent, uncleansable blood curse on your enemy. You can have one blood cursed enemy at a time. Dealing an additional bash removes the curse. When you block a blood cursed enemy, you restore 1,605 magicka to you every 1 second. When you put this in combination with your skills and your resources always coming back into your guy, you're just really, really hard to stop like this. Shoulder, Mighty Chudan, Sturdy, Health. The waist is a 1-piece trainee, Sturdy, Health, Heavy Armor. The 1-piece gives 1,454 max health. Alright, for the hands, Turning Tide, Sturdy, Health. Legs, Reinforced, Health, Turning Tide. 5, the feet, Turning Tide, Sturdy, Health. And for the jewelry, Convergence, Protective, Recovery, for the rings and necklace. Let's see, other gear sets that you could run. Actually, before I swap that, let me show you this real quick. So we were talking about some of your passives and what you can do. So whenever you're coming up to just a group of ads or whatever, you want to throw out your razor tops, your wall, swap over to your bash, and you can deal a little bit of damage as a tank. I know that was a trash pack of ads, but if you ever go into a dungeon, you'll notice a difference on this, especially when everything is all grouped really, really nice, and everything's exploding and everybody's damage is focused. You're going to feel like the group has way more damage because everything's going to be grouped so nice and tight. And like I said, it does a little bit of damage as well. Other gear set options I kind of want to go over with you real quick. I find this right here is the best way to buff your team, this combination. Now, some people like to run Yellow as their set. I like Turning Tide. You run into a lot of people that are running these heavy attack builds, and you already get that same buff built into the Oaken Soul anyway. So Turning Tide provides the same buff. That's why I don't. I'm sorry. Yellow provides that same buff. That's why I don't run YOLO. But other gear sets that you can run, I always typically will run Turning Tide on my front bar. And what I do is I back bar the other sets. Olarami is one of these other sets that I like to back bar. This gives mag recovery, minor Aegis at all times, reducing your damage taken from dungeon and trial monsters by 5%. Another mag recovery. And then the 5, casting abilities that leave an effect on the ground in combat. Create a circle of might for 5 seconds. You and group members in the circle gain major courage for 20 seconds, increasing your weapon and spell damage by 430 for 20 seconds, and this can go off every 10 seconds. So what I like to do with this, again, this is why I also run the Razor Drop, so I can do it at range. When you get into combat, say your teammates are like here, just want to cast that toward them, and then they touch the circle, and they gain the major courage. I think that is one of the best ways to really buff your team's damage. As long as people are paying attention to this circle and they will jump in that gold circle, this combination right here is going to give you the most damage for your team. Some other gear set options that you could consider, and again, I would try to back bar sets. Like say, for example, this one right here, it can occur every 10 seconds. you don't want to front bar something that can only go off every 10 seconds, or something that can go off like every 25 seconds, or some other set that maybe is dependent on your ultimate. Stack Steel is another good set that you can run, and I would back bar it as well. Powerful Assault is another one. YOLO, I wouldn't recommend it anymore. I think it's kind of outdated. But there's another set too that you could consider running as well. If you're ever playing with a group and it's a really hard dungeon, maybe the people they're just kind of allergic to living. They keep dying, and you're just wanting to really help them get through this content, and you're like always the last guy up. The tank should be anyway. Try Kagernak's Hope, back bar it. It's the exact same build that we just went over. All you're doing is you're just swapping out your jewelry and your back bar eye staff for all of these builds. So Kagernak is going to give max magicka, max magicka recovery, max health, weapon and spell damage, and then it decreases the time it takes to resurrect an ally. And when you successfully resurrect an ally, you restore 1660 magicka. So if you change your champion tree, go into your red tree right here, and you look, you have Spirit Mastery, decrease the time it takes to resurrect 33%. You put that on with Kagernak's, go over to your back bar, and you can just instantly revive somebody. So if you're, if you're trying to pug through something and people are just trying to help them clear some really hard content and they keep dying for some reason, try out the Kagernak's. You might like it as well. Anyway, I hope this video helps you guys. If you enjoyed it, please like, follow, and subscribe, and I'll try to get back to y'all with another video. Later.